Alright guys, Brian here with VetteSource, back again for another adventure at the corner of the freeway here. At least now we finally got good weather back again. You know, that's what I get for complaining about how hot it was. Well, heat is heat here in the summer, but then of course you complain about the heat and you get an answer with a monsoon for a week and a half. So it has seriously curtailed my outside teardown activities. So today what I thought I would do is I was going to actually do first a video on some teardown things I'm taking care of here while I'm waiting to get started back on our Formula 350 build that we've been working on for what seems like forever. But what I thought I'd do in the meantime first is kind of use this as a way to give you guys a description and evolution of the Corvette engine accessory bracket system that has gone on for 30 plus, well, longer than that, since the early 60s. So there's been a lot of changes in these brackets over the years, and of course we talk about a lot how complicated the motors are, and yeah, there's some complexity of course to your internal combustion engine, but what we don't really get into is the complexity of the bracket system that began to take shape in, yeah, I would say the late 60s with some of the more luxury cars that had more of the power accessory features, and then kind of devolved into what we see even here with early serpentine belt systems. So this is actually an 84 system. It's a 1 year only system, and you can see this hodgepodge looks kind of like a Chinese checkers with a lot of different size bolts and pulleys and belt on it. There's a lot of brackets and bolts and nuts hidden in here. So I'm going to tear this down in the next video. But what I realized is when I wanted to talk about this, I actually have 6 different versions of brackets that we can talk about, spanning from the mid 60s all the way up to the late 90s. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through and describe each one of the brackets and how they kind of changed over the years, because a lot of times you don't think about all the work that goes into this from the engineering side to make these work on the front of the motor and to have everything line up and not kill the motor, of course, power robbing and things of that nature. So let me walk over here. We're going to start out in our mid 60s, and I've got 7 different systems to show you. So we're going to go through these and show you how they work. So let me get set up at our other one and we'll start off over there. All right, so here in the garage, like I talked about, we're going to start out with the 67 here Corvette and kind of describe this a little bit. Now, if you're looking at this motor, you'll notice, obviously, there's only one engine-driven accessory, not even an accessory, on this motor. It's necessary. It's the alternator. Now, back in the 60s, if you don't know just a bit of trivia, Corvettes didn't even have an offering of power steering until 1963. So before then, everything was just manual. In the early mid 60s cars, you got a lot of, not a lot, but the small block cars generally would get upgraded with the options of, you know, power steering, 65, 66s, 66 actually, I think you'd see the power brakes with the addition of the disc brakes. Actually in 65, I digress, I'm sorry, get that wrong. So 65, you started to see the introduction of disc brakes on the cars and the power brake options. For some reason though, I keep thinking the 66s were the first year for power brakes. But from the factory, without any options, this is it. This is all these cars came with, was 2 brackets. You've got a bracket here holding the lower alternator in place, and the upper bracket with your adjustment slot here to adjust your belt, and that was it. Now, the one thing about this that indicates, of course, low accessories is the majority of the big motors, the big block cars, especially the solid lift cam motors like this 435 horsepower here, these did not have accessories most of the time because they would throw the belts. They were known for throwing the belts. In fact, you couldn't even order this engine with air conditioning. It would just throw the belt. So that's why this is such a simple system. And again, you've got 2 brackets with 3 bolts. There's 1 bolt here, there's a bolt here, there's a bolt on the side here, and your through bolt on your alternator, and then 1 bolt up here, and then over to the intake, and that's it. That's the whole setup right here. And what's funny about these two, you'll notice, if you got a sharp eye, of course you'll see we're still in the multiple bolts or multiple belts era, but there's a belt right here, right? So you'd wonder, why would they even have a belt that goes to nowhere? That actually is referred to as the idler belt. So that belt was there just in case this belt snapped, that the water pump would still have a direct connection to the harmonic balancer to run the water pump so the motor wouldn't overheat. It's only on big blocks. I think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only on big blocks. Yeah, I'm 99% sure it's only on the big blocks. And it's an odd thing because that's a really difficult belt to get on. There's no adjustment. You just slip it over the pulley and then slip the pulley over the threads for the water pump. So it's kind of a neat addition, but that's the way it goes. So this would be basically the simplest form of engine accessories you're gonna get in the 60s on a Corvette. An alternator and nothing else, all right? So let's move over to the 69 and I'll show you guys what that looks like with the addition of power steering. So hang on just a second. Okay, moving over to the 69, you can see this looks completely different. If you're paying attention, this bracket is actually consists of two brackets here, and a third bracket right here. But the reason that this is different is there's also a power steering pump on this car. So this would be a car that came with power steering, and by 69 it also was optioned with the smog pump, which of course is missing because everybody took that off. The 67 did not have a smog pump unless it came or was going to California. That was the only ones that were doing that. So this would be where your smog pump mounted, and this car has power steering and the alternator, and this is a special bracket for a car with power steering. It would actually look more like the 67 bracket if it didn't have the power steering, because the power steering actually has a lot of rotational mass. In fact, the pulley on this power steering pump is made of cast iron. It's a particular thing to the big blocks, I think, just as a way to keep them from ripping the components apart with the torque of the motors. So that's what you've got on this one. And this pulley is actually really hard to find used. They're not very common to see them out there around. And of course, big blocks, one of the big things about them too is they've got, again, this 3-groove pulley. This back groove here is specifically just for that idler belt that I have taken off the car right now. In fact, I got to change the water pump on this car. This is actually the car that we did the brake master cylinder on a few weeks ago. So we've worked on this one before. So again, this would be a alternator power steering setup with a smog pump by 69, which is showing how these got to be a little bit more complex as they went forward. Now the next one we're going to look at, of course, is the 76. Now the 76, what they did was they went back and they changed the bracket setup again on the alternator and made it look more like the 67 with the long adjustment arm, and then you've got the lower bracket here that ties in. Now this ties in only on the cylinder heads right here, and then underneath there, you can see or not, there's our power steering pump and a separate belt by itself, very low, running off the harmonic balancer. Now this one would be the first one that we've seen that's got the air conditioning compressor. Okay, now this is that big long A6 compressor that GM made in the 60s and 70s. Probably the best compressor ever known to man. I think the other manufacturers use this compressor too. It's a really heavy duty compressor, puts out a lot of nice refrigerated gas. Of course, the old style stuff, not the new R134, but the old stuff that was really good. And you can see looking how complex this bracket, this is a multi-layered bracket. So you got one piece coming here, you get another piece here, you got another one in this corner that runs all the way to the exhaust manifold. Let's see if I can get on this other side. And ties all the way back over here. So the AC compressor by itself is a very complex type bracket that if you just walk up on them and not sure what you're looking at, that's going to puzzle you a little while before you get it back together. These have a tendency to crack right here in these corners. These again are cast iron, of course, to hold the what's the word I'm looking for, the demands of you moving this system and making it work. Because like I said, it's a really big compressor. So this would be applicable from even 69. This is the type of compressor they had on them, all the way up to the mid 70s, right around the middle of 77, I think. Then we get over into this 81 here, which again, we're back to the same style. They separated the brackets where you get a lower bracket and upper bracket, and there's your power steering down there, run low off the harmonic balancer. But then we've got this little cheesy compressor they started using that nobody likes and fails, and they use this compressor all the way up until, on the Corvettes at least, they use this up until 86. And other cars, I think the formula actually has, the yellow gold formula still has one of these compressors on it. So I think they ditched these by 89, I think, maybe. So, and you can see too that the bracketry system for this AC compressor is much different than that big style compressor that was on the other one. This is a little bit more simple. You got one bracket that goes here, another bracket that ties off into the intake manifold, and there's another one underneath here that can't really be seen, that's right there, that holds that thing in place. So it's a little bit more less complicated. So in the span of 14 years, you can see that the brackets changed quite a bit as they kept adding stuff to it. Now, this would be the last of the cars, 82 was the last of the cars, Corvettes, that had the multi-belt bracket system. So let's walk back over to the 84 motor so I can show you that a little bit more closely. That's the first year of our serpentine setup. So I'll be right back. All right, so back over here looking at our 84 setup. Now, of course, 84 is the first year of the C4s, and everything was pretty much new. The only thing that carried over was the fuel injection system for the motor, and the basics of the motor were the same, but the bracket setup, we went to a serpentine setup, and it was a completely different thing than what the 81s, 82s had on them. So looking at this, you can see that on our outboard position, we've got the alternator here, and then right next to the alternator, we have the reservoir for the power steering, believe it or not, sitting up here at the top, sandwiched between the alternator and the smog pump. There's a tube that runs down through here to the smog pump that's buried inside of here that you can't really even see. It's actually behind this pulley, I promise. It's a little tiny high flow pump. Actually, here's where you can see it right there. There's the actual pump assembly with the pressure line running out of it. That's how big the power steering pump is on an 84 through 96 Corvette. They went to this high volume pump that put out a lot of power with a bigger, you see it's got a bigger pulley on it. So that was their answer to the traditional reservoir built into power pump assembly. So the reservoir was up here. Now in 85 they moved this, I'll show you that in a second, but this setup consists of this lower bracket here, you can see it more on this one. You've got the upper bracket here for the alternator and the power steering pump, another bracket over here to hold the smog pump in place, and then a fourth bracket that its sole purpose is to hold the alternator and hold the AC compressor into place. The AC compressor is mounted with this bracket right here, and there's a brace back in here that we can't really see right now, but when I do the video next on tearing this apart, I'll show you guys everything that's involved in here. But suffice it to say, by this point in time, these got to be like Chinese checkers. I mean, these are really a complex system to get taken apart. And of course, you know, they ended up getting more complex with the 70s because everybody was looking for the comfort features, the air conditioning, the power steering, the power brakes to a lesser degree because that doesn't really run off the engine. And then you also had the smog systems that were mandated by the EPA, which the older cars didn't have. So this would be 84. This is a 1-year only system. So next what we'll do is I'll go ahead and show you the system that's in this 86 so you can see what they changed yet again. So we come over to the 86, we see we've still got the same basic compressor, that one that nobody likes, and you really can't see the bracket system in this one. There's another motor over there I'll show you in a second, but you can look at it and see all the smog equipment, the diverter valves and everything are sitting right on top of this now, with tubing running back through here. This is what makes these kind of complex because there's a lot of stuff to get out of the way before you can even get to the bracket. Let's say you've got a broken bracket, because these are all aluminum. So with a broken bracket, you've got to take all this stuff off of here just to get that bracket out of the way. You can see the idler is right back in here. Walking over to the other side, you can see what they did was, this time, instead of tying in the power steering reservoir up here, they actually put it right here on the frame rail. And then of course you've got your pressure line and your return line right there at the bottom, the thicker one. I think that's the way it was. So you've still got an upper bracket, which is your smog pump, your alternator, and then your lower bracket, which contains where your high-speed pump is down there. So 84 through 86, essentially 84 through, actually I'm sorry, 91, you've got alternator, smog pump, and power steering pump on one side with AC compressor on the passenger side. Okay, now let me show you what that AC compressor bracket looks like without the AC compressor in it. So we saw here in the 84, the AC compressor bracket was a fairly simple design with the idler built up into the top. The 85 and later bracket is much more complex. It actually cradles the compressor on both sides, ties into the cylinder head, and then your idler's down here on the bottom. And there's one tricky bolt on this one that's worth saying. See that Torx bolt? That's the main bolt that goes through the compressor body and into the cylinder head. And the only way to get that off is, see how I line that notch up right there? That's how you get that bolt out of there. That's what that notch is built in there for. If you try to do it here, the head of the bolt gets stuck on the outer pulley ring on the compressor and you can't get it out of there. So you line that up and that's the way to get that out. So let's go ahead and finish up. I'll show you what they decided to do in 1992 with the LT1 cars, and you'll see how crazy they got with this. So I'll be right back. All right, so we're gonna finish up with the 96 LT4 car that you guys have seen me talk about or do a few things here on the channel. I don't know how that got dirty. So anyway, looking at the passenger side, you can see there's nothing on the passenger side on this motor now. So where did everything go? Now you can see the AC lines are here, they're running across to the front. So let's take a look at this other side. So in 92, when they introduced the LT1, GM decided, okay, instead of all these complex brackets that we got to, we're gonna make one big engine bracket. So yes, everything is crammed on this side. Now the way they were able to do this is, looking down in here, the smog pump, they turned it into an electric smog pump. So there's your smog pump routed with the hose that feeds back right here and goes all the way back through here and ties into your diverter valves here, up in here, okay? So what they did was they crammed and put this Nip and Denso compressor, which I started using in 88, which is actually a pretty good unit. The alternator's here, and there is the power steering pump. You can kind of see the lines are right in there. So all three of these components were put on this side, and way down in there is the idler. So if you look at this, the belt is only on this one side of the motor, and it doesn't even involve the water pump, because the water pump on LT1, LT4 cars is internally driven. So it doesn't require the belt. So the belt is all just on this one side over here. So this bracket alone, if you can find them, it's a Corvette only item, and it's a $200 or $300 bracket if you find them. Now the thing about them too is they use a lot of braces back in here that tie into the intake manifold, and there's two more here that tie into the exhaust manifold studs that keep this thing in place. And this AC compressor bracket, the AC compressor just bolts to the side of this bracket. This is actually a piece of the bracket right here. You can see where the threads go through right there. But it's a pretty complex piece. It's really neat for packaging, but it really throws people off because it's a very complex unit. And especially a lot of guys like to put these motors in other cars and hot rod applications, and they're trying to figure out how to make this bracket system work. And a lot of times it doesn't fit under the hood. It doesn't work for, you know, where their wiring goes. So it's kind of one that's really Corvette specific. I'm not saying it can't work, but it does. So anyway, I just wanted to go over this stuff with you guys today. We're back out working in the heat, you know, which I prefer over the rain any day of the week. And just showing you a little bit about these brackets. I find this kind of stuff interesting because a lot of times we think about what goes into the engineering of the motors. We don't think about what goes in to successfully run the systems that keep the car operational and keep it comfortable for people. So I will be back after the weekend with some more videos for you. I think that next video will be, we're going to tear down that bracket system to show you exactly how it's torn down on that 84 motor. And then I've got a few other teardown videos and some more we're going to do with that 86 project car and see where we get from there. So I'll catch up with you guys then. If you got any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below, and we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.